Reading from WindowsITPro.com, Paul Thoreau writes, despite a federal court order directing Microsoft to turn overseas held email data to federal authorities, the software giant said Friday it will continue to withhold that information as it waits for the case to wind through the appeals process. The judge has now ordered both Microsoft and federal prosecutors to advise her how to proceed by next Friday, September 5th. Okay, so this was written 7 days ago. So it's unclear what they've done since then, but this is the story from WindowsITPro.com. Let there be no doubt that Microsoft's actions in this controversial case are customer-centric. The firm isn't just standing up to the U.S. government on moral principles. It's now defying a federal court order. Quote, Microsoft will not be turning over the emails and plans to appeal, a Microsoft statement notes. Everyone agrees this case can and will proceed to the appeals court. This is simply about finding the appropriate procedure for that to happen. We return to a story about about Microsoft defying a court order. Let's put that up on the big board. Microsoft defies court order. They should be given an award. I think they get the Peace News Now Award of Defiance for the day. Although the people in the chat room, I have to be honest, say you guys are being a little too hard on Microsoft here, saying, oh, you know, what competitors have they got? They lose nothing from this. Let's see what's going on in the chat room. They say, China capitulation by Microsoft bothered me a bunch, but I do understand they wouldn't be operating in China otherwise. Yeah, I think that exactly sums up the process. The thing is, Microsoft has little to lose from this. It's not like any sanctions placed on Microsoft Corp will put any dent in their profits. Who are their major competitors? And I guess people think that I'm drinking a big swig of vodka here. I've got a bottle of water, or a glass rather, and this is an official glass of the Free State Project. I don't know if anyone can see this in the screen here, but it's got a little porcupine, and it might be filled with vodka, but it's actually not. All right, let's return to the story, see what Microsoft is up to. I think they are actually deserving of some congratulations here, despite what the people in the chat room are saying. From WindowsITPro.com, there is no doubt that Microsoft's actions in this controversial case are customer-centric. The firm isn't just standing up to the U.S. government on moral principles, it's now defying a federal court order. Quote from the Microsoft statement says, Microsoft will not be turning over the emails and plans to appeal. Everyone agrees this can and will proceed to appeals court. This is simply about finding the appropriate procedure for that to happen. Now, Judge Loretta Preska, the chief of the U.S. District Court in Manhattan, ruled on July 31st that Microsoft was required to hand over email messages stored in an Ireland data center to U.S. prosecutors investigating a criminal case. Well, hey, wait a minute. How can they demand something in Ireland be given over to people in the U.S.? That doesn't seem right. They don't have any jurisdiction there. But she suspended the order temporarily amid complaints from international companies and tech companies in the U.S. that argued that allowing U.S. authorities to search and seize data held internationally was illegal. No. You think? On Friday, however, she lifted that suspension after prosecutors successfully convinced her that her order was not appealable. The removal of the suspension legally requires Microsoft to hand over the email immediately. What did these prosecutors say to this judge? Did they threaten her with violence? I wonder. I mean, I'm not just speculating out of nowhere here. The prosecutors in the past have threatened violence on judges. It wouldn't be too far-fetched to think that, I mean, remember what happened with the $787 billion, or the sky was going to fall and the economy was going to come to a halt if the Congress didn't hand over a bailout to, who was that guy? Hank Paulson? Yeah. All right, then they gave over the money and nothing happened. The economy still crashed. It was still in awful shape, and we're still feeling the effects of that. And it didn't help anyone. It was just a payoff. This happens all the time in government, and this seems fishy to me that a judge would say, hey, wait a minute, you can't just grab data from Ireland and apply it to the US, but hey, prosecutors got to her and now bang boom, she reversed her decision and Microsoft has to turn over their emails. This is the first time a technology company has resisted a US search warrant seeking data that's held outside of the United States. You may remember Peace News reported on a heroic company, LavaBit, headed by Ladar Levison, another awesome civilly disobedient hero who said, F you, FBI. I'm not turning over my encrypted emails from my customers over to you, because they might include emails from Edward Snowden and other whistleblowers. So he said, no, I'm not going to comply. I don't care what you do. You can torture me. Well, eventually he caved. You know, that's the story, right? You put up resistance as much as you can, you hope you get support, and then eventually you fall. Because the government just has unlimited power, unlimited money, unlimited capabilities to prosecute and torture people that, you know, even the best among us who want to put up a peaceful resistance eventually crumble. Sorry, that's just the way it goes right now. I hope for a future where there are enough peaceful resistors where that's not the case, or when the government overextends itself so much that it implodes under its own weight. We're almost there, I think, but we're not there yet. In the view of Microsoft and many legal experts, federal authorities have no jurisdiction over data stored outside the country. Duh. It says that the court order violates Ireland's sovereignty and that prosecutors need to seek a legal treaty with Ireland in order to obtain the data they want. Well, that's just the view of Microsoft. You're the defendants in this case, which means you're wrong, always wrong. And the prosecutors who work for the government and the judge who works for the government, they're always right. So you will hand over your data. The U.S. does have jurisdiction over everything in Ireland and everything over the whole world. They're the police of the world, don't you know? And if they're going to prosecute with justice, they need access to everything in the world. Seems legit. Judge Preska, of course, feels differently. She has consistently agreed with the prosecution argument that the physical location of email is irrelevant because Microsoft controls the data from its base in the United States. Of perhaps more importance is the faith and trust of Microsoft's customers from around the world. Like other technology companies that are pushing for cloud services, Microsoft has been negatively impacted by reports about U.S. government spying and its ability to seize data stored in cloud data centers. It has asked governments from around the world to stop these practices and respect privacy rights. And as it faced resistance on that front, Microsoft has grown increasingly more suspicious of requests from governments for their data. Very fascinating article. The first top comment on this article at Windows IT Pro is from Walt C., who writes, "Good for Microsoft. If the government can't prove its case apart from phishing for emails stored in Ireland, it's difficult to see that the government has any case at all. Burden of proof is on the government, clearly. The defendant has no legal obligation to prove his innocence." Well, that's the way it's supposed to work, but that's not the way it does work in the US of A, the United States of Amnesia. We forget who has the burden of proof. It's the government. They're the one alleging that you've committed some sort of crime, and then they're demanding that you turn over emails that are going to incriminate you. What about a little thing called the Fifth Amendment? Well, I guess that doesn't apply, does it? No, of course not, because the government can do whatever the hell it wants. The rules are for you, not for them. All right, well, good for Microsoft. They're putting up a bit of resistance. I hope that they're successful. We'll continue to report this story.